My name is Jim Paulson. I'm a sculptor. I think I've been a sculptor all my life, and it was my privilege and honor to create Pili Wili. My biological father died when I was a year and a half old, and my mother married this man who turned out to be the most wonderful father anybody could be lucky enough to have, okay? And he was a maker. He was a guy like me who loves to make things. You know, working with materials, doing it yourself as opposed to having somebody else do it. Those are all things that are part of my DNA, you know? They're just there. And I think being around him, like if he needed it, he made it. He didn't go and buy it. Now, it was a different era, you know. I mean, I was born in 1943, you know, so it was a different time. And, but, you know, I used to make everything, you know, and it was a natural thing for me to go into making sculpture because I'm a maker. When I went off to college, undergraduate school, I was torn between going to the art department or going to the architectural department, and I don't know how I made the decision, but I ended up in the art department. In most programs, you start out with very basic level courses, and I remember the course Color and Design, where we were given obviously challenges, projects, and for some reason I chose to do a project in 3D when I could have done it in 2D. I didn't actually take my first actual sculpture class because you had to follow a certain program, but I was probably in my third year, my junior year, and I took this sculpture class, and that's when I knew this is it. This is what I want to do. In the early 70s, what was happening is that the art world was beginning to get lots of public art commissions. And where any public structure is built in the city of Baltimore, 1% of the total cost should go to some form of art relating to that structure. The sculpture Pili Wili came about because of the 1% for Art program, and that has been a real plus, not only for the city of Baltimore, but for artists who've been involved in making pieces. The art supervisor for the city art schools, Baltimore City Art Schools, Richard Mierzynski, gave my name to Jewel Downing and Associates. That was the architect that presided over the school, General Wolfe Elementary School. And they submitted my name along with others, and I met with them, and they told me what they wanted. They wanted a sculpture that would go out near the front of the school, and they wanted the piece to relate to small children, because the school was kindergarten through second grade. It seemed to me from my own childhood, pets were extremely important to children. And so that's how I came up with this idea of a large dinosaur-like creature, but not ferocious. The creature I envisioned was a friendly creature, one lovable, something that children, the little Smurfs I call them, could climb on and ride on. And because the pedestal's up high off the ground, it's not really designed to be an attractive thing for kids to actually interact with physically. But, you know, kids are people, and they like to touch things. And the textures that exist. It's really great to touch the face and the eyes and so forth, because it's got a friendly, goofy look on its face, and it's inviting. And fortunately, that's down low where the kids can actually come up and, polish the nose and so forth. And so then that's how I designed the sculpture, which became Pili Wili. It wasn't Pili Wili initially. I told the children and the school, I said, here is my idea of something that relates to you. I want you to now name it. I want you to own it. I want you to feel like it's yours. And they named it Pili Wili. My thinking along the lines of what became Pili Wili was that it wasn't something that someone else could fabricate. It was too personal. It had to be something that I could personally make, and I could personally put my thumbprint on. I wanted the thing to be in bronze. I couldn't afford to cast it, so I figured it had to be fabricated with a particular approach that I used, taking fragments of bronze, hammering them out, and welding them in place over a steel armature. That's the approach I took, and it's very time consuming. Every time you see any kind of a seam, and there are thousands of them, that's my hand moving across there, melting the bronze. My son, who was at the time only 3 or 4 years old, used to come out to my studio with his toys, and he placed one of his toys on my bench, and one of my sculptures just happened to fall onto that toy, and I thought, that's really nice, the way the wheels become more like mobility than feet. So I thought, rather than Pili Wili having feet and claws and all that, he would get there on 5 wheels. When you make a public piece, it belongs to somebody else, it's owned by somebody else, but it's still yours in a sense. You just can't get away from that. And so when it's mistreated, it's difficult. And it's a great feeling to know that there are people out there that care enough about public sculpture to want to preserve it and bring it back to life. I mean, that's great. Everybody likes to feel important at times. And when you work with and for children, nothing more makes you feel like a big shot, like you're valued. It's an experience that's both noble and rewarding. And it doesn't get any better than that.